Hey guys, Cameron and I were having a conversation earlier, and we thought it was something that might be worth sharing with all of you. We were talking about the topic of blanks. Obviously, Cameron is kind of well known as a trainer that really pushes his students to work blanks frequently. And we just finished a couple seminars, and we're having students run blanks. And I started feeling like there's maybe a little bit of a misconception in some of the detection community that blanks are only important so that you can do blanks. So, of course, in order to be able to run a search where there's nothing there and be able to call that, you have to be practicing blanks. But blanks really go into your dog's entire understanding of their job. And so it's going to affect you even when you are in searches where there is odor. So if our dog doesn't have a good understanding that there could be nothing there, or that they don't have to find a target odor when we cue them to work, that's going to affect us in every search we do, even if maybe the dog was trying to work out odor and we're putting a little pressure on them by standing closer, or if they don't have confidence to say, hey, I don't have it right now, and blanks help us provide that. We're going to run into more falses. The dog's going to maybe overwork the area because they have an expectation that they should find something in that space. And then for us, we aren't getting as much practice in reading our dog when they are in non-productive areas, which doesn't mean there's not target somewhere, but maybe just this area has no odor, and are we able to read that and move on from it and say, okay, we're clear here. Like one of the seminars in LA had a lot of really high drive, energetic dogs, and they are never going to look calm in blank areas. In fact, they maybe show a lot of what a green handler or a handler not familiar with that dog might look at as change of behavior. But if you've worked that dog in blank areas and have seen what they look like in non-productive space, you'll know, okay, we worked this. If there was odor there, I would have seen something else, something more distinct to my target odor. So is there anything, Cameron, that you've seen in teams where maybe even not necessarily within their blank searches, but just in general, where you say, I can tell that you're not running enough blanks and we need to start incorporating more of that into your training?
Well, yeah, if you look at what do blanks draw out of the dog.
Yeah.
So blanks highlight, one of the first things it highlights is time to find.
Mm-hmm.
So if there's a significant history of time to find, being, let's just say, under a minute, and in the sport world, that's really common, and even the professional world, when we look at records reviews, the average time to the first find is under a minute and a half. So if you have a big history where the dog is constantly getting reinforcement of finding target substance within a minute-ish, then when the blank is employed, you have a dog who starts going, there's an anomaly, there's something happening here, and there's a violation of expectation. How each dog deals with that violation of expectation is slightly different. A common thing that we see is the dogs, in some cases, start sniffing harder, start searching more intensely because they're like, where is it? I haven't found it. That, in turn, causes the handler to read the dog and go, ooh, my dog is doing more sniffing, more intensity. So there's got to be something here. The other thing it starts highlighting is the dog's going, well, I'll look at this thing, whatever this thing is, the space, whatever's there. It could be a box, could be a drawer or whatever, and start sniffing the things that have had previous history to them or context to it. So then the handler starts reading this shift and thinking there could be something there, especially if they're blind, and exhibiting handler behavior changes that are predictive to reward for the dog. So now there's this standoff between dog and handler. Handler's like, do you have something? That behavior is exhibited. Dog goes, ooh, handler, you're doing that thing that tells me I should get prepared to, or that I'm going to get rewarded imminently. And then the dog may pick something, and that pick something could be a context generalization. So let's say, like I said, tables, chairs, desk drawers, et cetera, or whatever the stinkiest thing is in the room, because we're clearly not finding anything. We've violated a time expectation. There's bias and cues starting to happen. So that's one of the biggest things that is a byproduct of violating the expectation of the previous known training where there's lots of fines. So blanks are really helpful in identifying that. To combat that is to do so obviously earlier in your training so you don't have that problem. But many of these people that are in detection already are down the road far enough that we have to address it now at whatever stage of training there is. So we have to establish a training progression plan that helps us deal with what the blanks show us.
Right.
It's amazing what you can read in your dog when there's no odor present. And that's the important part. So the other byproduct of this is handlers getting better at reading their dogs. And being confident in saying there's nothing there. I know many handlers in general are confident in telling you when there's odor, but they're far less confident of walking out of a space and saying there's nothing here.
Right.
And in lieu of saying nothing is here, a lot of handlers will say, I think I have interest in this area or that area. And that's just simply because the uncomfortability of saying it's blank, the behavior of the dog, for whatever reason it was at whatever point in time or whatever thing was there, that they showed heavy sniffing behavior or interest but didn't respond. But again, the lack of confidence. So doing blanks at the end of the day actually even builds your confidence up in your dog, because now can you not only read your dog when there's odor there, you get better at reading your dog when there's lack of odor
and then
there.
even in productive areas, you're going to know, okay, we worked this section. I didn't see anything that was, usually associated with finding odor. So this area I don't need to work again, right? You can do stuff like that. What about if you're running blanks, with a frequent rate in your training, do you think it even maybe makes our odor a little bit more special? Like, instead of like, oh yeah, of course I found odor, there's always odor, right? Like, whoa, I just had 2 blank rooms and now I found my thing, and like, almost violating their expectation to some degree that I just had blanks and I was kind of thinking maybe I wouldn't find anything, and then boom, I did find something. And that actually gives us a stronger response to odor and is more like our actual, operational work with the dogs, or even on the sport side, our trials.
So this comes down, and it came to a podcast conversation I had with Dr. Nathan Hall. We've interviewed him a few times now. And what we talked about when this exact topic came up, it's deprivation.
Oh, yeah.
When you deprive something that has had a previous known value, when all of a sudden it's reintroduced, it's more powerful. If you get paid for every little thing, right? If I paid you for every little thing that you did, but then switched that and only paid you sporadically, you value that payment a whole lot more. And I don't even really know if payment's the right term.
I think of it like, when you're a kid and like I went to a friend's house and they always had a big bowl of M&Ms. And my family never had stuff like that out. So I go to her house and be like, oh my God, these M&Ms, because I just didn't have like free access to that. Go there every day for a week. I don't want to touch M&Ms.
Correct. So whether it's, in this case, food as something that was something rewarding to you, reinforcing, so money, food, etc., when you deprive it and you give it randomly or more sporadically, it increases it increases the response to that.
Yeah.
So as the conversation that Nathan and I had, by randomizing, and this is again at the proper stage of training, randomizing at a less frequent pace the stimulus, the odor, because stimulus is going to be connected to reward. So therefore they kind of go hand in hand. But the stimulus will have more profound effect because of its deprivation.
And you might see a more exaggerated change from the dog.
Absolutely. You see because, oh my gosh, holy crap, I found it. It makes it really obvious to, in this case, the handler to go, oh, I can definitely tell.
Yeah.
But when there's constant ability to obtain stimulus, and again, this technique, it sounds counterintuitive, but works really well with low drive dogs. If they have at least a value to the stimulus, to the reward, so the stimulus is present and the reward is going to be followed, even though they don't really have high motivation, but if you find that right level, but you deprive it just enough, that lower motivated dog, when the stimulus appears, has a very strong, profound reaction to it, which again goes back to the handler going, ooh, I can read that really well.
Yeah.
Versus constantly taking the lower drive dog and going, here's something, here's
Right.
something, here's something. They're not super motivated to begin with, and because of that, the deprivation actually works better than constant application of the stimulus that leads to reward. So that's another true value, to use it in a way that we don't typically think of.
Yeah.
And that's really important to making your progression plan depending on your dog's motivation levels.
And I would imagine it would affect, kind of along those same lines, dogs that, we look at as, the shopaholics, the dogs that are cataloging as they go. Oh, yeah, odor's over there. I'll come back to that, right? If odor was a little more special, oh my gosh, there's odor here. Probably not going to see as many of those types of behaviors as, we currently see now, where a dog goes, yeah, I see it over there, but I'm still going to work the rest of the space. It's obviously not a surprise to them. It's not, we've lost a little bit of the value of sort of the novelty of that being in their space.
The detection dog community as a whole, sport and professional together, don't truly understand and value that the sporadic implementation of the stimulus has more value than the frequent application of stimulus. So let's just take the sport world, where you guys have high frequency of fine ratio in the early stages of titling a dog.
Yeah.
And then, so there's so much history to that, right? So, because like we were talking about being stuck in NW3 purgatory. So it took you a long time to get to NW3. And then in NW3, the sporadic nature of even in a blank truly being, it's there, but it's really less. So therefore, most teams constantly train for a number of hides. And then, for example, because we do seminars and we do weekend training here, what do most people want from us when they come to train?
They want to find lots of stuff.
If I could put 15 odors out, they would be ecstatic. They would love that, because we all love watching our dog find the thing. It's really not so good for a robust detection dog. A dog that can handle and understand that there's only a probability that there's odor here, not a certainty. We train for any number of motivation reasons. I want to see my dog do it. I feel my dog needs to find something. You guys use terms like recovery boxes and other things and it's all just to appease the human.
Hey, don't come for our recovery boxes, okay?
It's all to appease the human aspect of it. The dog is just happy that I got to go do the thing. There's value to that.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that we have to find something all the time. There's a number of different ways that you can reinforce and engage with your dog through reward. That doesn't always mean they have to find something.
Yeah. I feel like when I started out, like I've shared this story with lots of people, but my first sport dog, I didn't train blanks at all until we were at the NW3 level. And my thought was that why would I train blanks? Because if the odor's not there, if the stimulus isn't there, I won't get the response, which of course is not how that works. I don't need to, anybody that's been doing detection knows that's not the case. But after that, that was such a huge lesson for me, all of the issues that not doing blanks brought out. And it wasn't just about our blank searches. Like, it affects so much of what you do with your dog. And I just sometimes get the feeling, because I do understand how important that is, and especially like having a spaniel, right? Like, the searching part is super important for our dogs. And sometimes you kind of get the feel that they only want to work blanks to whatever level they think they're going to see it in their sport or in their discipline. But actually, we should be building it in sort of regardless, even if we never have blanks in our operational environment. It's still really important to have our dog understand that maybe there isn't odor there, to prevent all sorts of issues that we've already kind of discussed. But that was just something that I was thinking about after that seminar series that we were doing and working with some of the teams. Blanks are not just for blanks. Blanks are for your dog's performance just in general.
And we have a video that we could share how you implement blanks and how to reward blanks.
Lots of confusion about that.
Because yes, there's lots of confusion about, well, how do I reward a blank? And I'll just give a little tidbit right now, and that is I've been sharing more frequently that we all have a start command or a start cue for searching. So search, seek, etc., etc. That's how your dog is just prompted to go do the game or do the search. But how many really have a end of search cue that could be utilized in a way to communicate to the dog, maybe reinforcement that way? We're all done. All done. You did a good job. You searched. You can get some reinforcement now. So there's a couple different ways to do that. One of the biggest things is in the sport world, you guys do have one kind of baked in, which is your finish. So by saying finish in your guys' world, inadvertently, a lot of the dogs have learned that that word finish means we're over with. We're not searching anymore. You can capitalize upon that and use that to also, if you searched a blank, you didn't find anything, you say finish. Well, now you can choose. You can reward the dog through praise. You can reward the dog through a more primary reinforcer, toy, food, etc. And that is still going to satiate the dog and let it know that we had a really good search. It was a lot of fun versus no feedback.
Yeah.
I think a lot of times, Doc Hilliard said it this way: I don't want to play the hot and cold game, but only telling you when you're cold. Or in this case, the converse, only telling you when you're hot. It's super helpful to be able to tell you when you're cold too. And in this case, if you're hot, you find something. If you're cold, there's also some feedback to that. There's nothing here, and it's reinforcing. So back to how we talked about this is it needs to be reinforcing for the dog to know, and the handlers to be able to go, when there's something here, I do this. And when there's nothing here, I'm still able to receive some level of reinforcement for the hard work I put in.
And maybe that would help some of the handlers that, don't want to run blanks because they feel that they're depriving their dog of something, right?
Yeah.
And of course, the more dogs you watch, dogs like searching.
Yeah.
There's a lot of motivation for our dogs that goes into it than just finding the odor and getting a cookie. But, I think there's talking about stuff that we do for the handlers. There's some level of that is for us to say, yay, we did it, and, kind of be happy with our dog there.
Yeah. There's a lot of techniques, and what we're sharing here is just a conversation. Do what always works best for you and your dog. Follow a training progression plan. Hopefully whoever you're working with has one and gives you some information and feedback that helps you understand. So just like the dogs, humans need feedback to know what's working, what's not working. Your dog needs it too. So all we're trying to do is share a way for you guys to how to best handle when there's no stimulus, no communication.
Embrace your blanks.
Yes, exactly.
We'll see you guys later.